What's going on, you guys? It's Scott from Fly Rides. I am back again today with another eMTB review for you guys. Today I have the Haibike SDURO Fullseven LT 9.0. It's a great little trail rider that you're going to be able to take on some single track, fire roads. You can probably use it in like a cross-country eMTB race if you wanted to do that. It is spec'd out pretty nicely, especially for the price. And overall, I really enjoyed the ride. But let's break into it in a little more detail right now. So before we get into the ride experience, you know what we gotta do. Let's talk about specs, baby.
Let's talk about specs, baby.
So as I mentioned, this is going to be one of Haibike's top bikes of the year. You're getting a Bosch Performance CX on this bike, of course, the Power 2 battery with 500 watt hours. You guys know it well. It's offering you 75 newton meters of torque, 250 watts nominal, really solid motor, of course. Our drivetrain on here is the SRAM NX Eagle. It is not a complete group set because you're coming in with Magura MT7 hydraulic disc brakes, which are excellent, some of my favorite brakes, a 203 millimeter rotor in the front and a 180 in the back. But that drivetrain is very solid. So SRAM NX is one of my favorite drivetrains. It is considered, the NX line is one of SRAM's entry level, but SRAM really doesn't make anything that is like bad. It's fantastic. They give you an 11 to 50 cassette, so it really nicely compensates and it gives it more of like a power pack style bike feel with the look of a Power 2. The dropper seat post on this is going to be from Haibike. It is their XLC dropper. Your suspension on this is going to be from RockShox. You have 150 millimeters of travel, which is what they've done with the LT line for quite some time now, so you guys should know that. But it's going to be a Revelation fork with lockout, really solid, air fork up front, and in the back you have the Monarch RT, which is air suspension as well. Your wheel set on this is going to be a 27.5 inch wheel set, and it is a DT Swiss, which is a very nice upgrade from something like the Fullseven LT 7.0, which is coming with Alex rims. So I really appreciated that, just a little bit of a nicer wheel set. And you're also getting a knobby nick tire. So this is a 2.8 plus size tire. That will be great for rolling over rocks, rock garden, stuff like that. Any loose dirt if you're dealing with a lot of that stuff. I don't do a ton of mud because I live in California where it never rains. So overall, a pretty solidly spec'd out bike, but of course you are probably wondering how it actually rides. Let's get into it. So I have to say, I really enjoyed the ride on this bike overall. I think it's great for a rider like me who is not super aggressive, doesn't have any real downhill aspirations. I like to get a little bit of air here and there when I can, but it was a really nice ride. As I mentioned, it's not too aggressively built, but Haibike does a good job of giving you a little bit of extra play if you are someone who wants to tool around with some jumps, go into some berms pretty hard. In comparison to something like the All Mountain 6.0, which is a slacker bike, it's about 1 degree slacker in each direction, so the front and the end. It performs pretty similarly. I got to try out the All Mountain 6.0 a couple months ago, and I actually couldn't really tell a major difference between the two. So you're going to save some money on this bike right here, and it also performs pretty well. You lose 10 millimeters in travel, but other than that, you don't really notice a lot of difference between those two bikes. It's a pretty playful bike, especially for the Fullseven line. Again, these traditionally aren't as aggressively built, so not a whole lot of downhill, but going into cornering, and berms, stuff like that, it's actually really, really nice. So it's a 465 millimeter chainstay, which isn't the shortest in the industry, but honestly, I didn't notice any sort of I didn't feel like I was bringing a boat around. Also, as it turns out, chainstay length isn't really that important for cornering. Do not at me. Read this article that I'm going to link to, and you can hear why that's the case. Climbing on this bike felt great. I didn't encounter anything that I wasn't able to get up, which is really nice. Most of the time I was using that eMTB mode, so not even having really to do turbo. I think because of that 1150 cassette in the back, it really makes a big difference. In terms of what comes stock on the bike versus what I would upgrade, and again, I say this, there are always things to upgrade on every bike. You should be looking into doing upgrades. Do not just buy your bike stock. You're gonna have a much better experience if you research some awesome components. So what I would upgrade on this, grips for sure. You're gonna wanna get tires, I would say, and see if you can get a tubeless setup. You should be able to with the DT Swiss, I believe. I will correct myself below if that is not correct. and also the dropper seat post I might switch out as well. The XLC is a pretty solid dropper, but I'm also super fond of the KS Lev, and they're also coming out with a ton of Bluetooth droppers now too, so they're wireless, and that might be something to look at as well. I'm a big fan of the Purion display for eMTB riders. I think the more minimal you can keep that display, the less distracting it is, also the less likely it is to break off, the better. A lot of companies have gone towards a kind of more minimalist, smaller displays, and I think that's really good when you're out there kind of doing more intense riding. Overall, Haibike has done a really good job with this bike. There are a lot of people who I don't think are super aware of the Fullseven LT line. It hasn't gotten a lot of attention, but I really enjoyed this bike, and I think people, especially people who are like getting into it from different sports and the level of rider, that if we're real, most of us are, not a ton of us are really intense downhill guys. This is a great bike. It's kind of like an every man and woman bike. Really solid setup, but long term you'd probably be able to upgrade some of this stuff. So if you are a rider who is just getting into the eMTB scene, isn't really sure if they want to commit to it maybe, but they just want to see what it's all about, or if you're a rider who is entry level but you've got a little bit of cash to spend and you want to start on something pretty solid, the Haibike SDURO Fullseven LT 9.0 is going to be a great option. Leave a comment below, let me know if you have any questions further about my ride experience on this bike. Like this video, you guys, and please subscribe to this channel if you want to see more eMTB reviews, and leave a comment if you want to say and what I'm going to review next. We are happy to review bikes for you guys. We just need to know what you guys want to see. Thanks for watching, guys. We will see you next time.